Thank you. Senator Cassidy.
Hey, thank you all. I'll ask, if I cut you off, it's not I'm not being rude. I'm just got 5 minutes, got to hustle. Mr. Connell, to follow up upon what Senator Hassan said, thank you for replenishing the strategic national stockpile. But one thing that troubled us is that there was no first in, first out. There was no rotation of material before it expired. It was just dumped. What, just yes, no, have inventory management systems been implemented to minimize the wastage?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, we are looking at that.
Looking is a very vague term. If you're one of my medical students on rounds, I would say, what does that mean?
Well, one of the things we are pursuing is the model of the vendor manage.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Secondly, related to that, I'm told there's a lot of vaccine that's about to expire. So it's 6 months from being expired in a state which is not completely using it. Unfortunately, that's my state as among those. Ideally, from my perspective, we'd rotate that vaccine out to the border for those who are coming across as undocumented, or down to Central America and Mexico, which is having these COVID outbreaks. I'm told there's contractual issues with that. But is there any effort to rotate out soon to expire vaccine that doesn't appear as if it's going to be used into a setting which it could be used quite rapidly?
What we have been working on this, and what we have been advising the states is where they have repositories to hold on to that vaccine, because unlike most medical products you're used to, we're making these stability determinations on the fly.
So, Dr. Woodcock, that's news. You're telling me that even if it goes beyond the expiration date, that the vaccine can still be used?
No, I'm saying we're telling people to hold on to it, because when the additional stability, because we're doing stability, the companies are doing stability on the fly, because we
I understand.
Yeah. So we've extended the date once already for one of the vaccines. We may be able to keep extending as more stability, as there's longer stability observed.
But it still seems to me, inevitably, sooner or later, you're going to decide you got to toss it. Just an inventory management system, it seems wise to be rotating that to a place where it would be taken up quickly, as opposed to a place where it's being taken up quite slowly. Agree, disagree, and if you agree, any thoughts regarding that?
Well, that's really for probably Asper to talk about.
And maybe for State Department.
But
are there contractual obstacles to doing that? Because someone told me that the contracts with the drug companies would not allow the transfer of the product to another setting. We couldn't give it to Mexico, for example, because it just has to be tossed. Do you know about that?
Well, they aren't FDA's contracts, so my understanding is that it's possible under EUA to do exports, and that could be possible. But we can get back to you on that, because it really isn't an FDA issue.
Sounds great. Next, as regards Dr. Fauci or Dr. Walensky, it does seem to me this issue, or Dr. Woodcock, of whether or not we need a booster would be ascertainable by whether or not we can see a response of antibody to re-challenge within the window period. It's what, 4 days for the virus between exposure and an onset of infection. If the antibodies after re-exposure to vaccine, if you will, mimicking an infection, shoot up rapidly, we've got protection. Are any studies taking place along these lines?
Yeah, absolutely, both within the government and within the companies. And we certainly are, the government as a whole, the agencies involved are monitoring this very carefully, and we're sharing all the data, and we've heard from the many.
Now, these are very simply done and and don't have a lot of time frame. Obviously, the window period is only 4 days.
Right.
And I've asked about this before, but it doesn't seem as if there's any answers. What is the delay in knowing this? Because that would answer Senator Romney's question as regards whether or not a booster is required.
Well, as Dr. Fauci said, there are two things going on here. One is, when does immunity wane to the point that you need to give a booster? Our populace is not going to, we can't just boost them all the time, right? We need to boost them when it's appropriate.
But isn't there a subset of people whom you're following longitudinally that have negative antibodies? Their antibodies are initially positive, and now they've gone down either very low or zero?
They're waning. I wouldn't say they're negative. Obviously, Senator Dr. Cassidy, there are going to be people who don't respond to vaccination primarily, right, because of some immunocompromise. However, what is being followed is the waning of humoral immunity, yes, as Dr. Fauci described, over time. But it's waning, it isn't vanished. Okay. And that is clear because everybody who's getting hospitalized is unvaccinated, and they're being exposed to the Delta variant. So the vaccination is holding right now in the U.S.
Okay, I thank you all.
Thank you. Senator Lujan.